This episode is brought to you by DistroKid. Hey everybody, today's guest is Ace Enders, lead vocalist and guitarist for Hamilton, New Jersey rockers, The Early November. Together we dive deep into the writing, recording, and inspiration behind the fan-favorite song, Decoration, taken from their second full-length record, the triple disc concept album, The Mother, The Mechanic, and The Path. Yes, you heard that correct, a triple album. I mentioned to Ace that was a highly ambitious project for a young band. 3 separate albums, a straight-up rock record, which is The Mechanic, an acoustic record, and an experimental record. Decoration is a one-word chorus. Nothing more, nothing less. The verses of the song tell it all. And hearing Ace reflect on the inspiration for it is something that a lot of people in the music industry struggle with. Drummer Jeff Coomer is a monster on this track, and the guitar work is hook after hook of pure catchiness. Producer Chris Badami was an integral part of this whole process as well, with Ace already being a huge fan of his work. And the production? Well, it stands up all these years later. So sit back and enjoy. We got a good one for you.
Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast.
Ace, my friend, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you very much.
I love it. All professional. You actually looks like you have a sheet or a tarp behind you.
Yeah, well, it is kind of a sheet. I have this like weird wall that I've built that can change colors and enhance mood when need to be for different types of things like this and whatnot. But right now it's off. So it just looks like a sheet when it's off.
Gotcha. Well, really happy that you're sitting in with us. I went back and combed over Decoration. And what a song. It's not surprising that this became a fan favorite from early November.
It is going back. You're 100% right. That's like, I think 2006 it came out. And who would have thought one word chorus would be one of the ones that likes.
You took the words out of my mouth. There's no harmonies, vocal harmonies in this song. It's a one-word chorus, and we're going to get to that in a little bit because I have a lot of questions about that.
Yeah.
But for everybody listening, you guys formed in New Jersey in 2001, and I first heard of you from Drive Through Records. Of course, Richard Rains and his sister Stephanie Rains, who operated Drive Through.
Yeah.
And you were formed as a three-piece. A debut EP for all of this was released in December 2002, and your first full-length, debut full-length, The Room's Too Cold, came out in October of 2003. Decoration is from the second studio album, which this is crazy. It's a triple disc concept album called The Mother, The Mechanic, and The Path. Decoration is the third track on the first disc, which is The Mechanic. And talk about that a little bit. Like when you talk about Decoration, do you say the whole triple concept record, or do you say it's from The Mechanic?
I say the triple disc every single time. And
you do?
Yeah. Let me say first off, that information was great in the beginning there because no one ever picks up on when the band started, it was a 3-piece. That's one thing that I think in every chat that I've ever had with someone, no one ever talks about that. But yeah, for that beginning we were. And now touching back on the triple disc, it's always the triple disc. It's always The Mother, The Mechanic, and The Path, because it was such a weird undertaking at the time. Like it was a bizarre album, but in a great way. And I think I always refer to it like that. I don't know why. It's like a family. I got to keep them together, you know?
Well, no, and I think it was really ambitious of you guys on a second record to do a triple album. I mean, bands do double albums, but here you are, a relatively new band coming out with this grandiose effort. It's a lot of music, and of course, The Mechanic was more the rock disc, and then you had, was it The Mother that was the acoustic portion?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then The Path was kind of your, okay, we can branch out and do something weird, which I think that's genius, because then it's like, okay, here, all the fans that don't want us to change, here's your record. The fans that kind of want us to change, here's your acoustic record. And here's the one left to center, so you can't say that we got too weird.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think how you put that is great. And if we had a time machine, I would hire you to do all the press.
Well, I would be honored, Ace. The album was co-produced by yourself and Chris Badami, and Chris's engineering and production credits, and this is crazy, include The Starting Line, Dillinger Escape Plan, Midtown, Mike Patton, Mary Wilson of the Supremes, John Popper of Blues Traveler, and many more. That's quite a varied list.
Yeah, very eclectic. He's a great dude, and from New Jersey as well. We did our first EP with him, and that sort of started the relationship. Really, that first. You remember a band? This is one that you didn't say, but it was a band called Lane Meyer from New Jersey, and I loved Lane Meyer.
Of course, I ended up in Tampa, Florida, knowing Sean Smith, their drummer.
Right.
I don't know if you remember Sean, but we did shows with them back in the day, and yeah, that's this is the second time on the show that a band referenced Lane Meyer. I'm trying to think of who it was. I think it's when we had Brian on from Gaslight Anthem. I think he was talking about Lane Meyer.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And that was like one of the biggest reasons that got us to go record with Chris at first was that Lane Meyer record. Like Stories from the Big Screen for me was like huge when I was younger. That was just great, man. I loved that album. I loved that band. And he did that in his garage. And I was like, that's where we need to go.
And isn't that funny how sometimes, and I haven't heard those Lane Meyer recordings in years, and who knows, maybe they hold up, but a lot of times you love how the music is hitting you so much, especially as an early band. You look back and say, and I'm not suggesting this of Chris Badami, but maybe this guy wasn't getting the best sounds or the best production, but man, my band had to go there because this record hit me so hard.
Totally. That's 100% right, man. That's wild. And you know what I miss about those times, and not to get hung up on that, but if we're talking about that, like not sounding great, like that's why we made that first record, The Room's Too Cold, so rough around the edges, because we loved that style of like things could be loose. They didn't have to sound great. Pitch didn't have to be perfect. Like you could hear weird noises in the guitars. You could hear like things were a little bit like DIY, and I love that stuff. I just wish the rest of the world would have moved at that same pace. But it's there's something cool and magic about that.
Right. I always felt like Early November perfectly, you guys were the bridge between pop punk and emo. And I hate using those terms, but if you want to box it in, it's like you did have a little roughness around the edges, and the way the guitar interplay is, especially in Decoration, the way it goes from the hook guitar lead to the octave part, it just reminds me a lot of something that Hot Water Music would have done around that time.
Yeah, we knew our roots for sure, and we played into them.
How were you writing songs at this point? Was it an acoustic guitar on the couch, or were you guys still hashing it out in the practice space with each other?
Yeah, I think I was always an acoustic guitar on the couch kind of guy, or an acoustic guitar wherever. That was like always my pattern would be like, all right, I'll pick up a guitar, the one that's laying down preferably and almost not in tune. And then was pretty much the flow for the entirety of the band. But that's always been my vibe. Something that sounds a little bit sad, a little bit like it's seen a thing or two. I don't know about you, but I mean, when I write something, I like the instrument to have a little bit of, be a little weathered, because it's like, it speaks to my soul that way.
No, and I think, and I've talked about that exact thing a lot on this show. We go in with computers and we cut out little noises and cut out things, and you want to make it perfect. And, sometimes that works for a pop record, but when you take out that realness factor, it loses something. I like when stuff's a little rough around the edges, and, we both come from a punk rock background, so that makes sense as well.
Yeah. There's some charm to it, and some just bit of relatableness probably. And I noticed, I think, like when I started to, after we took a hiatus like 2008 or something like that, I got into songwriting and, working with other artists on, really crafting a song that way, and seeing how that pop world that you're referring to like crafts songs, and it's different than going into it and just letting it flow. It's more like, okay, this has to have a point. Everything has to have a period and be like, perfect punctuation. Whereas that's like, it's such a different mechanism that you're using in that instance. And it really shifts your perspective on how this stuff is made, and really gives you an appreciation of that bit of being naive and tripping into something. Like, I love that. Tripping into something is like my favorite thing, because that's the purest form of like excitement that you can get. Like, oh my God, I didn't see this coming. It's like a roller coaster,
Yeah.
It's just interesting how your perspective can shift like that through those different forms of music, if you will, genres or whatever.
Well, and now if you want to, take it to the other side of as a live thing, as a band, think of how you change over the years. There's sometimes, someone will post a video of Less Than Jake from YouTube in 1995, and I'll go look at it, and I can't for the life of me. I'm looking at it going, how did we play the songs that fast? We're running around, we're jumping off drum risers, and I could never get back to that because I'm not that musician anymore. And, sometimes I wish you could get a little bit of that frenetic, young, youthful, naive energy, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Were you guys crafting demos and like, were you, and if you were, how were you doing them? 4-track at this point, or just a tape recorder, or how would you send music around?
I did especially for decoration. I think that's when I entered a phase of Pro Tools. So I was, I was 18 when I started getting into like recording stuff, maybe 17. I got a 4-track. Then I realized that at 18, I could apply for a credit card, and they gave everybody credit cards at that point. So I bought ADAT machines and like a mixing board, and got way in over my head. Luckily, those demos that I made and that record that I made with that, I'll call it an investment, that ended up being what got the band notoriety and signed to Drive Through, which then led to everything sort of working out. But I mean, at that point, for these demos or for that record, I was demoing in Pro Tools already at that point. And I'd always been like fascinated with recording and just figuring things out in general. So that was, I would make a song, like have the idea, try and give like everybody a little bit of an idea, but allow them to still be as creative as possible for them, to itch their own, artistic, whatever you want to call it. And then, we would sort of put it together after that. But I would usually come with a demo with an idea of like melodically, this is where things are going to be.
Cool. I still marvel. Do you ever at the technology now? Because I think back at how hard it was to get the idea across with a, just a tape recorder of a, here's an idea I would hum and hand it to the drummer.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like in 30 minutes now I can have a sketched song with drums, and it's a good representation. Well, I want to jump into the song, Ace. It's 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Starts off basically with the chorus progression of the song, the first 4 bars. It sounds like one room, the drums, like a one-room microphone far away, but the bell and the hi-hat sound like they were closer mic'd,
right?
Like mixed in. Is that what you did there? It's really cool, and that drum beat's awesome.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of there was made to be a little bit of an effect on that beginning part. But that's one thing with Jeff, when it comes to the bell, I think he's always taken so much pride in his, let's say,
attention to how he hits it.
Yes, the precision of how he hits that bell. That's been a thing for him since we started. So I think no matter where you mic anything in that room, you're going to hear that bell more than anything. That's just how he is with it. It's always, he wants to hit it 100% perfect every single time. And I mean, I don't know how out of everything on the kit that became his thing, but that's like still to this day. I mean, if we're tracking and like, he's like, oh, there's that bell, I know I can put it here. He hits it precise every single time. And I have to give him credit for that, because I try and play drums, like I'll do it for demos. And I'm like, man, I can't get that bell to crack like him. I don't know how you do that.
As you know, we're all humans and we're all different. Every one of us. You get someone behind a kit. I've been in studios where, the producer's like, I just don't know. And he'll sit behind the kit and start kicking the kick drum, it's like, oh, that sounds different. So you have to, whoever you're working with, you have to tailor the sounds to that. It almost sounds like possibly Jeff was playing here kind of softer on the drums, but that bell he was really hitting, which is very difficult to do dynamically.
Yeah. I mean, he could have been, for sure. It was, like I said, he takes a lot of pride in that bell. So he probably, I wouldn't be surprised. And I do love that, to your point of like every person plays a little bit different. I think that's a really cool thing. And I hope we don't end up losing that at some point with all the technology and everything.
Well, and it's, some of my favorite bands have switched members, and maybe they got a technically more proficient, we'll say better guitar player in the band, but it just didn't feel the same.
Yeah.
It wasn't the same. It didn't have that. We all have our own fingerprint. Around bar 5, an overdriven arpeggiated guitar comes in panned off left. It's haunting. That's what I'm calling the hook of the song. Around bar 7, it sounds like a distorted guitar volume swell along with a heavy reverbed yeah, followed by 16 bars of drums, bass, stereo guitars, and a guitar pan left switching back and forth from a guitar lick to an octave part. It's killer. I love what's happening there, and almost sounds like these parts were happening, correct me if I'm wrong, because you became a 4-piece.
Yeah, I think because the 4-piece, and then I think at this point when we were mapping this out, we had the intention as well to become a 5-piece after. So it was like we were able to do parts now that allowed us to, one, live be able to do panning with different guitars, and we would pass things back and forth as somebody else could just like hold down rhythm or whatever. Like I would usually hold down rhythm, and there were other 2 guitars would be like able to sort of mess with that idea live. But it was definitely, being able to add that other part allows you to do things. I always loved those types of textures, and even like thinking about that octave line, like tying it back to like Lanemeyer or something like that. We were very much in, always loved that style of just like, hey, this is what we do. We just make it, loud. And I love octaves still to this day. I think for a brief period, I was like, I'm going to grow out of octaves, but you can't do it.
No, and it's, for what we do, it's such a great layer, and it just does something. When you mute the octave guitar in a chorus, it's like, oh, and it could be super low in the mix. When you take it out, you can definitely feel it. Out of this intro, we're into verse 1.
Back, cover up his ears. We got some dirty little secrets we don't want him to hear. It's business, you don't question someone's wealth. We'll chain him to the bed so he won't run away. Then we take the piggy bank and cash it in on our way. So chase your dreams and never let them go down.
So take the boy to the back, cover up his ears. We got some dirty little secrets we don't want him to hear. In this business, you don't question someone's wealth. We'll chain him to the bed so he won't run away. Then we'll take the piggy bank and cash it in on our way. So chase your dreams and never let them go down here.
Where I'm at here is just like preying on someone who really wants something very badly, and taking advantage of the fact that they're willing to do anything to make this thing possible. So the lyrically, it's all about like, just, I think being taken advantage of, and, preying on that soul that's just unwilling to quit. And it's it's an interesting time in the existence of this part of our career for sure.
were you at the time, did you write it from the perspective you just laid out, or are you reflecting now on what it's about?
At the time, I wrote it about that, and it was a combination of two things, because the whole concept of the triple disc record was it tied into that full concept, but also played, from a personal standpoint, where this song was specifically about. I guess to clarify, and simplify it, because it was such an elaborate thing that I had tried to make here. The record itself was this big concept that everything tied together, all three albums tied together, and it played out this story of a kid going through life trying to figure out why he was left, why his parents didn't want him, why it's like, why his life panned out the way it did. And as he's growing up, he's going through all these different phases of people taking advantage of him, taking advantage of his ability to want to discover what this meaning is for his life. And this song tied to that in a sense of like, when you're going through that discovery or that bitterness, when you're a teenager, maybe you start to feel that angst of, someone taking advantage of you, and that desire to figure out why you're there. And you can easily relate it to the music business, which is where it is, where I guess visually this is right here, where you're a young band. Like for me, I came from nothing in life. I was a very it was a slow start for me, let's say that, and I had to discover how to write a song, how to find my voice, who I was, to even hold a conversation with someone. So when I was a kid, like this would not have been possible, a conversation like this. Like this was a developed thing over many, many, many years. But looking at, for this, it was like, I found my voice. I took certain risks and things at a point where I didn't even know what I was doing, but it somehow was paying off. And it felt almost cosmic to me, and almost like it was supposed to happen that way. And in this picture, it's very much maybe the music business, or whoever you want to talk about personally, seeing that and saying, oh, I can make this horse run for as long as I want it to. And this is sort of like the imagery painted there, but it all ties into the bigger concept of what the album was. And it was a time, man. And that's this whole record in general, I really like that we're talking about it, because it's like something I don't get to dive into very often, especially this far after the fact. But when you really sit back and think about it, like the amount of work that went into just getting everything to tie together and then fit in a rock song, conceptually making it all go together, I'm like, yeah, at the time I felt crazy. But, thinking about it now, it's like, it's pretty cool, And
it's funny though, you use the word work, but if you were to really define it, it was a passion. And it sounds to me that you were bridging the gap between being this adolescent that came from nothing, that was kind of trying to find out who he was. And this kind of sounds like you were coming into that light a little bit.
Yeah, I think so.
Tell me why you left. Tell me where you went. Tell me why.
Hey everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more coming up with Ascenders after a few words from our sponsors.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with the Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/demakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/demakes. Hey there, Krista Makes a Podcast listeners. Ready to take your podcast experience to the next level? By signing up for the supporting cast at KristaMakes.com, you not only ensure the continued production of our show, but also unlock exclusive perks. Subscribers receive a weekly bonus episode of our other podcast, The After Party, co-hosted by Chris Fafalius and myself. Many fans rave that The After Party is just as enjoyable as the main show. And with close to 200 music-centric episodes in the archive, there's a treasure trove of entertainment awaiting you. Thank you for tuning in and for your support in keeping the podcast going strong. Join us at KristaMakes.com and let's keep the fun conversations going.
And now, back to the show.
Verse 1, some interesting stuff in here, Ace. First couple lines, just hi-hat and kick drum with sporadic bass guitar and stereo guitar single hits. And then right in the second line where you say, we don't want him to hear, the next line, in this business, there's a vocal overlap there.
Secrets we don't want him to hear. This business you don't question.
And you can really hear that overdub, okay? And of course, when we're cutting vocals, sometimes it'll be line by line. You'll take lines from different takes. But here it's pretty noticeable. It's even more noticeable. We'll get there in a moment with the chorus. But something we sometimes don't think of when we're songwriters or we're in the studio recording stuff is that I have to go sing this live someday. Was that ever an issue?
Oh, absolutely. And it most definitely was. Like I think even then, but I was like in this mode of like doing overlaps then. I don't know why really, other than like I wanted it to be, I always want to paint with what I have in front of me. And for this, it was like so many thoughts crammed into one space. So portion of the overdub or of the overlaps in the chorus and in the verse. And I mean, it happens in another song on the record as well, but I always like to play off of like the voices and feelings in our head, and it's all stepping on each other, so some of it is symbolic and some of it is like, I knew I was getting myself into something because live I could never pull that off. So I have to cut out a couple words to be able to do it.
I call it cheating. We cheat a little bit live.
For sure. There has to be that in this tune, but
it's the worst too, Ace. When I know you played those shows where you had to cheat more than ever on certain nights because your voice was hurting. It was giving out on you. And you'll meet that fan in the alley as you're walking back outside, and they're like, "That was the best show. I've seen you 30 times. You were amazing." So it's like, okay, gotta get out of your head sometimes. A couple other things here on that line, "Someone's Wealth." The drums open up a bit on this line, and the guitars and bass get more playful. We get another overlap vocal from the line "On Our Way" into "So Chase Your Dreams." On "Dreams," there's a guitar feedback that creeps in left and right, followed by a 4-bar musical setup for chorus 1. It's almost like a vocal-less pre-chorus.
Yeah.
This little part, this setup. And now that I didn't really think this until we got to breaking this down. There's so much going on here with the guitars. And really, the only information of the song you get is in verse 1 and verse 2. The bridge is all instrumental. You don't get any more information there. And the chorus, as we know, is just one word that we're going to get to now. You say decoration 4 times in a row. We haven't had a harmony up to this point in the song. And now we get decoration 4 times with no harmonies again. It's just you. It sounds like there's at least 3 vocals or so in unison here on chorus 1. What is decoration? And was that enough at the time for you to say this is what the chorus is going to be? Obviously it was. You released it like this, but anybody else in the band, producer Chris Badami, did he say there's got to be something more here on chorus 3, or was that it?
That was it. Nobody said a word.
Okay.
Yeah, decoration for me, it summed up what I felt at the time, like appropriately, like what I was basically. I was a decoration in this bigger thing that you probably know. Like for me, feeling insignificant in my own successes is a common thread. And I think this is one of those things. It's like that feeling of like, I'm not really like, I'm an ornament, you know? And that's like, that's it. So this could all be happening. All of this is happening. And especially through the lens of being taken advantage of, you're basically just a very small piece in someone else's game. And you end up being like, you know, the decoration that reminds you of it.
You're like an object. You're a number.
Just an object, just a number. Yeah. And that's sort of like at the time that was, I remember I remember like struggling with this chorus, and there was probably a few versions of it, but I remember exactly where I was driving in my old SUV at the time. Like, what am I going to do here? I just had the instrumental track, and it hit me like to do that.
It's an interesting word to repeat over and over again. Decoration just by itself is kind of an odd word.
Yeah.
You know, you get songs with a chorus, I want to rock. Okay, well, we know what that's about. We will rock you. Okay, I get that. But decoration, it's an interesting word, and it's interesting that you latched onto that. And I love what it means. I love the inspiration behind that. It's really cool. That 4-bar musical setup, Ace, I meant to mention, on that part, there's an octave guitar panned off left, along with the sound of like a transistor radio having problems off to the right. It's like guitar pedal feedback.
I forget exactly what that sound is, but it might be some like, it could be feedback. We went through so many different weird sounds because I remember preparing for this record, and we had like just thousands of sample packs. And at the time it was 2006. It was different. You didn't have like everything on the internet right there for you. So we had to like pre-order all these different things that could make sounds, all of these different samples. And it was, we just tried to put like weird symbolic stuff wherever we could. Like if it sounded like it was breaking up, gave the illusion or the feeling of like you're cracking a little bit, throw it in there. Something that's just going to paint that picture a little bit more.
It doesn't sound like the song was mixed and you just like pasted or glued this on top of it, that sample. And what I mean by that is, I've heard samples and things like this that, I don't know, they sound forced. And usually it's it's the bass player in the band that thinks it's cute. And it was on the demo and it's like, oh, it's got to be here, and it's there. And you can kind of hear, this just sounds like a noisy rock band part. It doesn't really sound, although I did think it was an overdub. I didn't think it was just one of the guitars feeding back. Very cool. Decoration, the first line, there's an overlap with the second line. And then the third time you say decoration, there's an overlap there. And this overlap to me is bigger than the verse overlaps. And talk to me a little bit about that. You're the only vocalist on this part. Live, do the other guys sing so that you can kind of cheat and go to the next line?
They used to, which at the time it made sense. Like, okay, I'll just do it because I sing. I'm the lead singer, and everybody else will pick up the. We can go back and forth live, give the crowd a part to sing, but then they stopped doing that, and now I sing all 4 of them all the time. So it's a deep breath every time we have to play that song. But I don't know what happened. I mean, now I'm perfectly capable. Back then, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, you could kind of, I'll say it, fake that part, and it would be fine.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why your band members got lazy though. What's going on with that? It's just one word 4 times. How many syllables? Decoration, 4 syllables, so 16 syllables. Jeez. All right, might have to go back to a 3-piece. Don't tell them I said that. Here in the chorus, that arpeggiated guitar pan off left is going back and forth with that octave guitar. And I wrote here, it's such a hook.
Yeah.
And after the chorus, we're followed again by a 4-bar musical tag. Like the intro, it's such great tension when it goes to that B chord.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a sucker for that. And then it comes back up for the verse.
Right.
I love that part. This is kind of like the verse. We had a 4-bar setup for the chorus, and now we got a 4-bar musical tag here, almost like a post-chorus with no vocals before verse 2. And talk to me about that a little bit. Was there a lot of thinking behind this, that we want that tension, or that's just how it came out?
Yeah, I think it was like, first let me touch on the guitar part being like that octave part, like, and, switching back and forth with that little lead there, the hammer-on lead.
Yeah.
Like, Joe was great at stuff like that. He used to come up with very simple things that were easy for anybody to play. And that's why I really loved him as a guitar player. He unfortunately doesn't play in the band anymore. He's a management guy now, all day, every day. But his mindset behind that stuff was doing really simple things that anybody could play that you just want to sing along to. And I think that's a really valuable skill to have, a very cool skill as well. But when it came to that part after, it was like, we need to settle this down somehow, catch a little bit of a breath. As far as the tension at that time in life, it was just like, if it's cool, it's cool. If it's not, it's not. It was like anybody, it's your guess is as good as mine.
Man, and I've talked about that with people before. I wish sometimes I could get back to that.
I know.
Not caring and go, this is the way it is. Yeah, but it's not like the first verse. It doesn't repeat again. I know, but it's fine.
Yeah.
We used to do that all the time. And then, at some point you start getting really regimented. It's like, okay, I can't write another song, verse, chorus, bridge out. There's got to be a little bit more here. Some really cool stuff happening at the end of this chorus. Like I said, when it goes to that B chord, that tension and then lifting back up. I just absolutely love it.
Kick it in the back, make it all go away. Take some pills for the pain and throw your voice so someone else is paid to write the hits. So you can talk until you're rich, until your cheekbones hurt, and then a little baby talk to make sure you still. It's all about the pointless perks that we all pay for to pay for ourselves.
But you can kick it in the back, make it all go away. Take some pills for the pain and throw your voice away. Someone else is paid to write the hits. So you can talk until you're rich, until your cheekbones hurt, and then a little baby talk to make sure you still work. It's all about the pointless perks that we all pay for to pay for ourselves. There's a lot there.
Yes, there most definitely is a little bit of anger,
And may I ask what the anger was about? Okay, I understand music business, but you're a relatively young band here. I mean, you got signed in 01, Drive-Thru picked you up in 02. They were arguably a major label.
Yeah.
You guys were on a major, had an EP and a debut album. Now you got 3 records out, and you had already kind of seen the aggravation within the business. It's already, because I had that aggravation too. I guess I just wasn't thinking about it or to put it into song at that point. There were certain suits at the label I liked, but
yeah,
most of the building I couldn't stand, and the feeling and the sentiment was probably the same with them and me.
Right.
But what's happening here?
In this verse, for me, it's especially at the beginning, the kick it in the back part, make it all go away, like, is about making it go away, making the problem go away, but not in the conventional or right way, like almost like stabbing someone in the back or something like that, with that type of, like, still with the theme of taking advantage of, and then telling ourselves we're good and pushing forward. That's what the pills and all that, and then throwing your voice away, because it's like no one really is going to, it's not genuine, it's disingenuine at that point. And then I think that end part, or the next half of the verse, is really like being fake and not authentic, and that's what people want, and that's what people desire, and that inauthenticity at the time, for me, how I felt, and not just directed towards, my specific position, but you started to see people get rewarded for things and find successes that would, it's no secret that the entertainment industry is extremely competitive. And when you can walk into a situation and acknowledge that this is going to get rewarded because of their willingness to sacrifice maybe the genuine reason for doing, or like the better moral reason, if you will. Because I mean, to preface, like, I really respect art. I really respect that feeling of what it can do for someone and how it can positively impact someone's life. But I look at it almost like when you are not being genuine with your art, when you're using it just as a vessel to gain wealth or to prey on someone else's to gain wealth off of that, you're doing potentially something that is pushing it backwards, pushing the whole idea of it backwards and clouding how people really should interpret or think of what this form of life is, because now art is a very different thing than it was 10 years ago. And if we don't believe that or don't acknowledge it, we're lying to ourselves.
Well, and I'm sure if you asked Gene Simmons this question, he'd have a different, but I could probably speak for you. And I'm speaking for myself right now. If someone told me right now, you're never making another cent off your music ever again, am I going to throw the guitar away? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, we're musicians. I had a buddy ask me not too long ago. He's like, how much longer are you going to do this? I'm like, I don't know. Look at Mick Jagger. It's like, he's got enough money for the next 10 generations of his family. He doesn't do it for money.
Right.
He doesn't do it for vanity. It's just something inside the guy. You know, what's he going to do? Go home and retire and be dead in 6 months? I mean, it's what keeps you alive. Some really cool things here in verse 2. Same basic instrumentation of the other verse with the stereo guitars and the bass, but the drumming here, it's a bit more elaborate, really tasty parts. And now I know that ride cymbal I wrote here, the bell, is super loud here. Yeah. Was that ever an issue with not being able to turn it down enough in the other drum mics?
I want to say, yeah. I want to say that
it had to have been.
Most definitely a real thing. Yeah, for sure.
It's like, someone take that guy's bell away. Jeez.
He loves it still.
Well, we get those overlapped vocals here again on Voice Away and Someone Else, and we get it again on Still Work and It's All. On that line there, it's really noticeable here, the vocal overdub. And that one in particular, I wrote here in parentheses, I put live with a question mark. How did you do that one? But you have to completely fake that one, right?
Either fake it, or I would have somebody just say those last two words so I can jump in with the next one. Or now, like, if nobody's going to do it now, I will completely, I'll just skip over it.
Now, this record, of course, was done to Pro Tools, but I A-B'd this next part, and this 4-bar musical setup happens again here after verse 2, but it is not copied and pasted. I can hear what the drums are doing is a little bit different, the fluctuations there, and I love that, because it would have been easy just to paste the first time. Was that important to you? Was that a conversation, or that just happened?
That was definitely important to not do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Chorus 2 off the heels of verse 2. Same thing again. We get decoration 4 times. Those overlaps again. Same overall basic instrumentation here as chorus 1. And here's where I wrote. I was finally like, it kicked in and it hit me. There's no vocal harmonies in this song. And was that discussed? Was it like, okay, we're at chorus 2 or at the end, we're at chorus 3. Maybe we should put a third here or something.
I don't think it was ever even questioned. I don't even think it was like brought up like, you know what, let's put a harmony in this song.
Because let me tell you something. I did like the regular third. I did like the regular harmonies you would do with this. Okay, just decoration. And then I tried to do some weird ones. I couldn't find one that worked or that I liked. That I was like, oh, this betters the song. Yeah. This lifts the song. Yeah. They should do a re-release and have me do the harmony. No, it didn't.
And let's do it.
It didn't make it any better. And then at the end of chorus 2, the 4-bar ascending musical setup happens again. I love the bass octave thing,
right,
when it goes up to that high note there. And then we get probably one of the more odd parts in a song that I've ever heard. I mean, this is, and I mean that with the utmost sincerity. This part is so just bare bones. And I know that if I would have been in that control room, because I like to overdo things about, well, what if this came in here? It's like, no. I think this is what you guys were going for. The complete just bottom falling out here. This part is so cool. It's 12 bars, and at first the band is ringing out. A guitar left along with chord changes without any strumming is happening. It's just kind of moving chord changes, but there's no real percussive strumming hits. It's very odd, but full of tension. The last 2 bars or so, it sounds like something, Ace, is being plugged in. And then like there's this, I don't know, typewriter or cash register sound off to the right, followed by that arpeggiated guitar lick panned off to the left and a snare roll off left. It almost sounds like a cash register again that we get one. Is that what that sound is? Is that different from what I called a typewriter a second ago?
It is a cash register. Yeah. It's the sound of punching in the numbers on a cash register and then the normal ching, the drawer opening, stuff like that.
I had no idea why that was here until now.
Yeah.
Because I know what the song's about and I get it. Okay. You're just cha-ching. You're calling everybody out.
Yeah.
After this part, we get 1 bar of silence before we go into chorus 3. And talk to me about that. I love things like that. Silence can be so effective.
Most definitely. And I think that's one thing that we've always at least tried to do before we even knew that, like, how to make music powerful. It was more like, okay, we know how to make it loud. We know how to make it soft. We know how to make it not there. And it was one of the tools that we used was like, let's do a complete stop and then explosion, because we knew that we would get some type of a reaction from that, whether it be in our minds or, in a live setting. Because I mean, back then you just comparing things to live settings, and you know that when you go from really quiet to really loud, people react.
Stick around.
Were you guys playing this live before you recorded it?
Yeah, definitely.
You were?
Mm-hmm.
And how was the reaction?
It was great because people could sing along from the first time.
Yeah.
After that first chorus, they could sing along to the second chorus. So it was it was really cool. And this was one of the ones that we found like confidence in probably first.
Well, we talked about this a second ago. Chorus 3. It's the same again.
Yeah.
It's just decoration 4 times, no harmonies. Both the noodly guitar lick panned off left and the octave are busier here than chorus 1 and chorus 2. The rest of the instrumentation is basically the same. And then we get a yeah, and another yeah. Mm-hmm. And the last thing you hear is like this vocal reverb chain, just kind of shh.
Yeah.
And the song's done. Knowing that the fans got it, you went in to record it. Hearing the song back, were you proud of it?
Yes. I think so. I think there's always going to be elements that you listen to. You're like, oh, I wish I would have done that a little differently, especially, this far down the road. But I think so. I think we were really proud of that song, it being that it was just like, it sounded like you could play it at a VFW and it would sound exactly like it does on a record. And that was always like an important piece to the puzzle. And, I think it's I think overall really, really proud of it. And that last of the song, I mean, it was oddly enough, it just came back to me right now. But that last was a definite. I remember going into it being like, something needs to be here. I don't know what to put here exactly. I'm going to do a like that. And the way I sang it, okay, in my mind, no joke here. I'm like, I'm going to go tie it back to a band that I love forever. Then I found, I don't know how, I wouldn't know exactly where the relation is at this point, but then I did. one of my favorite bands, Less Than Jake, I was like, it felt like a Less Than Jake feel to me. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding.
I did not know that's where you were going with this, Ace.
Dude,
that's awesome.
But that's where my head was in that moment. And I don't know why it felt like right. And that popped in my head. I wouldn't even be able to explain how it, what I tied it to at that point. But like, I do remember thinking that, and I'm like, they would do something cool like that. And this felt cool to me. There's a little anecdote that I don't think anybody really knows.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I got to say, in terms of Billboard 200 popularity, Less Than Jake's kind of right there with you guys. We were around number 31. It was somewhere high 20s, early 30s on the Billboard 200. And the reason I bring that up, the triple disc concept album, The Mother, The Mechanic, and The Path, debuted at number 31 on the Billboard 200. The band's highest charting album to date. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Your third full-length, Incurrence, came out in July of 2012. Imbue came out in 2015. Your fifth record, Lilac, in 2019. And the record 20, your sixth album in 2022. And your new self-titled album is out now, your seventh album. Talk to me about it a little bit.
Well, this seventh album, when we were talking about a little bit earlier about getting back to that, like just discovering things and tripping into it, like getting back to that place where that naive feel.
Yeah.
I feel like this album is where I let myself do that, because the last one was more like, all right, I'm going to figure out how to make do something that people will connect with and like again. And I gave that up, and I'm like, I'm just going to figure out how to play something that I can just trip into. So I would make a guitar line with a really weird tuning that wouldn't make any sense. And then I would just throw something on top of it. And then I would throw something on top of that. And then I made it like sort of my way of recreating how I would make something like discovery in each part. So for me, it was really exciting in that sense of like the whole thing was a journey of discovery. And I'm happy that I was able to reattach with that. And it felt really cool because it's not structured like normally. It's structured like there's some that are verse, chorus, bridge out. There's some that are like chorus, verse, bridge, who knows what that other part is that just repeats for like 5 minutes. And it's like, it's pretty, I was happy to be able to do that.
That's awesome, man. Well, I can't wait to hear it. And before we break, I understand you have a summer tour coming up with Spitalfield.
Yes. We've got Spitalfield on a section of it. We've got Hello Goodbye on a section of it. Hit the Lights on a section of it.
Awesome.
And yeah, Cliff Diver opening. So I'm real excited.
Awesome, buddy. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for sitting in today. And we should get a tour with Less Than Jake early November together. I can come out and sing the last yeah and take credit for it.
Come on, you know how pumped I would be about that. Get out of here.
Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Ace Enders. The song you were just hearing is The Empress off of the new self-titled early November album. So go check that out, but don't go anywhere. We got lots more Krista Makes a Podcast coming right up after a few words from our sponsors.
The Helping Friendly Podcast explores the music and fan experience of Phish through interviews and deep dives on shows and tours. For more than 10 years, we've created insightful and fun discussions about our favorite band, and with the help of our guests and thematic series, we're still discovering new angles of appreciation for Phish. And when the band is on tour, we provide a review of every show the following day. As one of our listeners said, any Phish fans that enjoy meandering conversations and incredible insight on new and old Phish shows, this is for you. Highly recommend. It's not just about the band and the shows, it's about the journey getting there. Throughout 2024, we're going to be running down the top 25 Phish tours of all time, and that'll be interspersed with show reviews and regular episodes. Join us and check out the Helping Friendly Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey friends, have you been loving Krista Makes a Podcast? Well, spread the love by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't hesitate to share what you enjoy about the show in an actual written review on Apple Podcasts. Not only does it help more people discover us, but we often read reviews in the rap segment of the show. It's a quick, cost-free way to support us and takes just a minute of your time. Your reviews mean the world to us and help us keep the podcast thriving. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for being a friend.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Krista Makes a Podcast, email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumighttnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Kratalias, which means rattlesnake in Greek, a punk rock band from Greece, and you can find their music on Spotify and all the streaming platforms. Here's a snippet of their song, O Telephtios Anthropos Stigi, which in English means Last Man on Earth.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
Chris, I thought this was a great episode, and I couldn't help but thinking right away, how ambitious is it as a young band for your second album to release a triple album?
Unbelievable. I mean, that's exactly what I said to him. I said, this is pretty ambitious for a band that did an EP, did a full length, and now your second studio album, your second full length album is not an album, it's albums, 3.
And add on top of that another layer, it's a concept triple album.
Concept with 3 different styles, okay? The rock record, the acoustic record, and the experimentation record. Big undertaking for any band, especially a band that young.
Yeah, for sure. You talked about the overlapped vocals, which is very easy to do in the era of Pro Tools and everything, and I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of doing it. It's easy to deal with live when you have more than one singer. I remember my first experience with a producer, past Krista Makes a Podcast guest, Jamie Wolford, when we recorded with him, he was very against doing that. He was really a purist, and you got to be able to do this live, so don't sing over yourself. I personally don't have a problem with it, but I just thought that was an interesting little part of this episode.
Oh, absolutely. No, and I knew that it had to have come up in conversation live. He had to, at some point, at least in his own head, go, oh man, now I got to do this.
Chris, I also was thinking about songs with one-word choruses. The only 2 songs that I could think of with one-word choruses, I don't know if this counts, but Tequila by the Champs and Fame from David Bowie. I think the chorus is just Fame. Those are the only ones I can think of. Can you think of any other ones?
I certainly can. It's an episode we're going to record tomorrow, Chris, so we can't tell anybody.
Wow. Okay.
Think of that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And I thought when I was breaking down Decoration and I got into the other song last night, I went, this is very interesting, to your point.
That's so funny that our listeners either next week or the week after, probably the week after that, are going to hear what we're talking about. I didn't think of that song. That's true.
There you go. No, that jumped right out at me with Decoration. And then, of course, looking at the lyrics for the other song. Pretty cool.
That's so funny. Chris, another thing about this song, there's a real moodiness to the chorus of this song. It puts me in the mind of bands like Sunny Day Real Estate or Far, when we had Far on here. It's like this 90s heavy alt rock sound. Some people might say it's like a Midwestern emo type sound that just puts you in this, like, I don't know what the word is, pensive mood or something.
Yeah.
And this song has that. I love that about this song.
It does. And I told Ace that. I said, and I now I wonder, because the later Hot Water stuff, I almost wonder if Hot Water was listening to Early November, because I hear a lot, and I know that from learning Chris's parts when I played with Hot Water for that one show that time. A lot of this, left and right, having two guitarists, and in this song, that chorus, that pensive feeling that you're talking about, it's the way those guitars are playing off of each other.
Right. And I felt like Ace wanted to say more. I felt like he was tiptoeing around what the song was about. He was leaving a little bit of mystery to it, but I do think it's also relatable. And I mean, not just with the music industry, just with, people being more concerned with the financial gain of something rather than the artistic pursuit of it or something. I think it's pretty relatable in a lot of ways in life. But hey, I really like this episode. I really like Ace too. I've met him once or twice along my journey, and I think he seems like a really cool guy, and I really like his songs.
Yeah, great guy and great band. We'd done some shows with him years ago, and just hardworking, just honest guy, and you can tell he just loves to play music. As I said to him, I said, if tomorrow, right this second, you learn you're never going to make a cent again, are you going to stop being a musician? It's like, no, right. It's inside us. Hey, if you guys want to support Krista Makes a Podcast, you can join our supporting cast over at KristaMakes.com. Chris, tell them what they get.
You'll get a weekly bonus episode of a podcast called The After Party. If you go subscribe to it right now for a few bucks a month and help out the podcast, you get access to the entire back catalog. Chris, do you know we have like 170 at this point episodes of The After Party?
Yeah, I know. If you're going to join that, now would be the time. You have, it's the summertime. You can be taking road trips with the family. You can just listen to Chris and mine's soothing voice.
Yeah, that's right. And also, Chris, I want to encourage people on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go leave us a review if you enjoy the show. Leave us a 5-star review, of course. If you're going to leave less than 5 stars, don't worry about leaving a review. We only want those 5-star ones. But I always like, Chris, to read a review that someone has left us on the show, because it's, feeds our egos a little bit.
That's right. Well, read away, because I like hearing them.
Okay, this one's from Scotty Too Hottie, who said, I'm just going to start with, where has this podcast been all my life? I just found out about this last week, and when I found out how old this is and how many episodes there are, I felt like I found a treasure trove. If music means as much to you as it does to me, then this is now your favorite thing to listen to. Chris is intelligent, creative, and thorough in his approach to questioning his guest and breaking down the songs involved. He's also thoughtful in his approach to conversation. He's super friendly and never cuts the guest off. There's no podcast I'd recommend over this if you're a music lover like me. My love for music grows more and more with every episode I listen to. Thank you, Chris, for doing this.
Well, thank you, Scotty the Hottie, for the review.
Scotty Too Hottie.
Scotty Too Hottie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the review. I could be argued. He called me intelligent. That could be argued. But Scotty, thank you so much. And thank you, Chris.
Yeah, no problem.
I don't thank you often enough. And hey, go follow, give us a follow on the Krista Makes a Podcast Instagram page. We'd appreciate it. I want to thank this week's guest for sitting in the hot seat, Ace Enders. We'll see you next week.
One Hit Thunder is a podcast where we both celebrate and have a good laugh about bands and artists that had just one hit that we all know. Each week, we're joined by a guest from the world of music or comedy to learn more than you ever thought you would about some songs that you can't forget. And we decide if they brought the One Hit Thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. Look, if you listen to the show, you're probably going to laugh, and I guarantee you're going to crush next time the bar has music trivia. Tag Team, Jane Child, Meredith Brooks, Looking Glass, Sean Mullins, Eiffel 65, EMF, Crash Test Dummies, Crazy Town, Chumbawamba. We have hundreds of episodes in our back catalog and a new episode each week, so pass the Dutchie, make sure you're connected, and subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods.
Hey everyone, this is Tuck from Fit for a King, an off-road minivan. Every week I bring you fun interviews alongside your favorite metalcore entertainers with my new podcast, Get Tucked. Join me every Monday with bands like Counterparts, Crystal Lake, like Moths to Flames, and many more. We play unsigned and undiscovered bands, deep dive into each artist's history, and of course provide the greatest breakdowns in current metalcore. Tune in to Get Tucked every Monday, out now through Sound Talent Media.
Pulling up to Mickey D's just for drinks? Oh yeah, that's me. Nothing extra, just perfection and a straw. coming in hot for the coldest cups on the block. Because there are drinks. Then there are drinks from McDonald's.
Mix things up with any size lemonade or sweet tea for $1.49. Perfect with our classic fries. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.